Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 193. Part 1 of 5. We appeared right back in the glade, unfortunately. I was kinda hoping to keep the memory train rolling. What's up? I ask. Your filly has finished her message, my guide said. As has one of your mare friends. Are you prepared for them? One at a time, preferably. And which mare friend? I never thought I'd get to ask that question. Twilight, though Celestia is currently leaving a message as we speak. What the fuck? She doesn't even know me. Well, let's hear Taya's. The guide reached out her hands to hold my cheeks and my filly's loving words started filling my mind. Hi mommy. I hope you're having fun in your coma. Luna says you'll hear anything anyone important to you says, and there's nobody more important to you than me, so I know you'll hear it all. So, first, you're the best mommy ever and I'm never gonna let you forget it, no matter how much weirder the coma makes you. I'm pretty sure she's the weird one, here, I said, crossing my arms. Also, Luna said you probably wouldn't be able to feel my hugs, so you'll just have to believe me when I say I'm currently hugging you right now. It seems like you've lost some color since you got here, but you still smell so good. She got in real close and started sniffing and giggling. Oh mommy, you'll never know how much I love you. It took me ages to train you into a mostly proper mommy, but now that I'm gonna be your adorable little filly forever, it was worth it. That made her giggle some more, which ended in her sniffing me again. I really fucked up as a parent, I sighed. When she finally got tired of creeping me out, she started talking again. Anyway, Luna also told me some of what you might see in there. It doesn't really seem fair you get to see into our memories. I wanna see into yours. So I got to thinking that maybe I should do it, too. Flo keeps telling me I'm acting weird and creepy all the time, so maybe I could use the coma to make me cuter instead of like Luna. Vern. But that seems like way too much time away from you, so I was just gonna have Flo or Aqua do it manually before I go in to rescue you. I highly doubt either of my elementals would actually do that, I said. At the very least, I know Aqua won't, because she doesn't have permission. That's when I remembered that you probably ordered Aqua not to do that and Flo told me she wouldn't help me, so I asked if Luna had any spells to do it. Unfortunately, she said she had been ordered not to follow any stupid orders. Since she's crazy, I couldn't sway her with logic and reasoning. Gotta love loyalty, I said with a smirk. So I finally decided to pick a pet so I could get most of what Flo calls my creepy possessiveness out on something that can't complain about it. He's so cute. Flo helped me train him, so he's perfectly well behaved. I don't think everyone approves, though. Oh lord, what the hell did she get? A baby cockatrice, the guide said. Flo, what the fuck? Flo didn't answer, not that I really expected her to. Instead, Taya continued. Well, they'll get over it. Especially if it actually does help make me less creepy. Although I still think your robot is exaggerating. That made her pause for a moment. No, not our robot, her robot. You may be in my head, but you aren't mine. Now hush, I'm having a heartfelt talk with mommy. Although, you can talk to her, right? So we could have a conversation. She paused again before sighing. Oh. Man, I feel like I'm in for a long haul, I sighed. Sure enough, it was a very long talk. She dedicated the first few hours to talking about how much she loved me and going into all the reasons why. Most of them revolved around me saving her, giving her an awesome life, being the best mommy ever, and all the belly rubs and ear scratches. The second batch of hours was spent talking about all the classes she had been taking and how cool learning so many new ways of blowing shit up was. Apparently there were also a few cute colts who were starting to pay attention to her, which was a nice plus. She may have even made a friend, which was only a little shocking. The third set was spent on her gushing about how awesome traveling with everyone has been and how she's had so much fun killing things with me. It included a description of a few of the events from her point of view. That part was actually extremely interesting, and I had a feeling I'd be seeing some of them personally when the coma progressed that far. I was actually left with several questions I wanted to ask my adoring little filly, but it would have to wait. Fourth, she filled an hour discussing how great it would be when Twilight and I got married and she had 2 mommies to train. It included matching our outfits and hair, training in combat together, and working on ways to create a weird magical lesbian spawn so she could have more siblings. Although she admitted she would also be okay with adopting some others, if it came to that. And finally, she spent 2 hours talking about how much fun she'd have fighting in the Tartarus War, which kinda made me feel bad about having to explain that she wouldn't be there. But that would be a problem for future me, so I put it out of my mind. She finished her talk with explaining just how much she loved me, which took her an additional 15 minutes. The poem she wrote to express it was cute, but a little weird. The last thing she said was that Twilight was waiting her turn, so it was no surprise that I started hearing her voice next. I got here while Taya was talking about how great it would be for us to get married, Navi. It got me kinda thinking. Well, I know this coma is supposed to help you make up your mind about a lot of things. And according to Luna, you can hear what we say. So maybe my words will help sway your mind. I've been with you since your beginning, Nav. Ever since you were created, we've been butting heads. I know we can both admit that we've molded each other for the better. For the most part, I muttered. That's something you need to remember when looking at all of your options. Moonbeam may be changing into something better, but her personality is still very domineering. She wouldn't change herself to make you happy. Fleur is a high and mighty canterlet mare. You may have tempered her some, but I can tell she's almost as controlling as Moonbeam. As if you can really talk. I know you've complained before about my possessiveness. Unlike some of your other paramours, I'm not so old and set in my ways that I can't fix things. Of course, that comes with the obvious addition that I'm not the only one with things to fix. Which is obviously fair, of course, I said with a shrug. It's not fair for me to nitpick while you can't talk back, so we can discuss it all later. After all, I'm sure I have a few other habits you find annoying. Compromise is the cornerstone of all relationships, and all I want out of any partner is complete fairness. I do still think we should try and score Princess Gilda as well, though. That would give you a royal title and a cute little princess to corrupt. She has her brother's permission at this point, so all you need to do is say yes and it'll be official. I honestly find it weird that my mare friend is trying to get me to marry another woman, I said. But I guess it's just par for the course, at this point. Although I'd still be just as happy to have you all to myself, of course. You know our minds work well together. Surviving this awful maze is enough proof of that, not to mention the several, lascivious books we've worked on. It's hard to know the depths of your wonderful mind, but I think I've gotten enough of an understanding to say we complement each other better than most. True in some ways, false in others. We clash about as often as we agree. The only particular downside with me is that you wouldn't gain any manner of dowry or title. Gilda or Moonbeam would make you royalty, and there's really no way I can compete with that. I know you always say you aren't interested in position, but you keep talking about wanting to shape the world more. Being royalty would put you in a much better position for that. Gilda's the perfect candidate because of it, too. We'd be in the perfect position to whisper into her brother's ear. Between that, Moonbeam, Cadance, and Celestia, we'd have this entire continent under our control. After we take Central America, at least, I said. Quite the lofty goal, but it does make sense. My personal recommendation is to have your choice made, whatever it may be, by the time the Tartarus campaign starts. If we're successful, things will begin rapidly changing. You'll need a solid anchor to help you keep steady. I'm obviously the best mare for you, but I'll understand if you make the wrong choice. Thankfully, that last line sounded sufficiently sarcastic. You know, as long as whoever you choose lets me have a turn every now and then. Or at least lets me watch. And of course, she had to ruin it. Thankfully, Twilight didn't take up nearly as much time as Taya. She did spend a few hours talking about all the good times we had, though. That included beating Trixie twice, the boring stuff we did in the Middle East, saving everyone at Kadan's wedding, saving everyone in the Crystal Empire, surviving Athena's maze, and a lot more lewd stuff than I expected her to talk about. Once again, hearing it all from someone else's perspective made the stories much more interesting. When she finally got bored of talking, she said, "Apparently you can't feel what we're doing, so I just want you to know I'm about to kiss you." I'm assuming she leaned in to do so. All right, turns out, that wasn't the best idea. I forgot it's been a few days since you brushed your teeth. That made me giggle. I plan on visiting again, but it might be a few days. I've been working with Princess Gilda and a few changeling architects to build your college. She's been surprisingly open-minded about their designs. So the little birdie actually can change her tune. I guess I'll talk to you again in a few days, unless you wake up first. I'm patting your shoulder goodbye. And just like that, things went silent for a moment before she started talking again. As it turns out, Celestia entered the book and I can't leave. I'm not sure why she's here, to be honest. There's no way you'd hear anything she says. You barely even know her now. Unless she's here to talk to Athena, of course, I said. I don't expect her to take very long and I really kinda want to watch. I just figured I'd let you know, in case you were interested. Talk to you soon, Navi. That's a pretty good point, actually, I said. How can Celestia talk to me in here? I'm not close to her at all yet. You are the most formative thing she knows, my guide said. You are the one who finally defeated and tamed her. And when she came to, you were the first one to speak more than a few words to her. Not only that, but you've decided to treat her fairly and honestly despite having all the power over her. Had you ever been at the mercy of the mare she once was, you would no longer exist. Celestia knows this and takes it to heart. Combine that with the fact that Flo custom built her to be the perfect wife for you and it comes as no surprise that she could speak to you in the coma. Flo did what now? I slowly ask. She appears very unhappy with me, the guide said. Perhaps I should not have said anything. I think you very much should have, I replied. And I think you should explain. You have noticed all the details yourself, she said. All I can see are the facts with which you are presented. I come to different conclusions than you might, but I think we can both see what Flo's intent was. Put it to words, I said. The water elementals wanted you to marry Celestia. You refused. You granted a water elemental the power to build Celestia's mind from the ground up, but didn't give her any conditions for it. Tell me, what do you think a selfing entity would do when given the opportunity to subtly arrange something that was openly denied to them? I guess it depends entirely upon whether that selfing entity desires to stay in my favor or not. So, is Celestia's message finished? It is. Are you prepared to hear it? I am. There is something about you that draws others in, Celestia said. And I don't mean charisma or leadership or even lust. There is something about you, specifically, that acts as an actual pull toward others. The mare I once was suspected it. Upon examining my older memories, I felt no such pull in any of them. But ever since you first left my side, I've felt myself wanting to see you again. I don't know what it is yet, but I would like your assistance in deciphering this mystery. I believe it is a part of what made my sister lose herself so heavily, and why so many have accosted you. A little late to the party, but at least she means well, I said. I'm surprised she's telling me, though. I hope beyond hope that this is either something you do not know or merely suspect, she continued. The thought that you knew about your pull and used it against us is disquieting. Flo and Aqua hasten to your defense, but I know where their loyalties lie. I would speak to you when you leave this coma. You can tell her that I found out the day I entered the coma, I said. And explain everything I know about it so far. I'm going to tell everyone when I get out, anyway. I'm not here solely to discuss such topics, of course, Celestia said. I have spoken more to Moonbeam, Cadance, and Shining Armor. I believe a war on Tartarus is feasible. It will require very careful planning and execution, but it can be done. As we speak, your massive ship floats toward Canterlet, harvesting resources as it goes. Kraft's ponies are being teleported in as they sign up and Jack is putting them to good use. Soon, the ship will be a bustling hive of industry. Sounds pretty neat. I was hoping to see it dock with the city for the first time, though. And with business out of the way, I'd like to discuss something more personal. You talked about marriage with the old me more than once. I think it would be a marvelous idea and would like to formally extend the offer. In case you don't actually hear this, I'll make it again in person later. You're intelligent, so I won't waste time listing all the benefits. We could grow to be great partners. I know you're still wary of me, so I understand you'd have to take time to consider such a thing. Welp, I guess that confirms that, I said, rolling my eyes. I bet Blaze's offer still stands. Of course, I do not make such a declaration lightly. For any to marry me would be a grand affair, something celebrated across the globe. We could announce it after the Tartarus victory and host a month-long celebration. We can be wed at the end and declare it a state holiday forevermore. That way, we'd always have our anniversary off. How much time has she spent thinking about this? Jesus! That is the wrong question, my guide said. How far have your trusted elementals planned ahead? Judging by what Aqua was planning, I'd say they've planned ahead a few centuries. Judging by Aqua's execution, I'd say whatever they might have been planning was doomed to fail from the start. That made my guide giggle, at least. I really didn't want to be there forever, so I let Celestia continue. Of course, should you choose one of your current paramours instead, I would highly recommend Moonbeam. For one, she'd share you. For another, locking her in as an ally would be valuable, and a ring around her horn would be the best way. And finally, she's the one who makes you moan the most in bed, hooves down. All very good reasons, I said with a nod. And she would be the best option if not for two things, a mysterious deal with Discord and living underground. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You still barely know me, after all, so I don't even know if you'll hear this. Have a good rest in there, Nav. If any of us deserve one, it's... What are you? Get off me, you wretched ape. Hera's cackling cut Celestia off. After a second or two, I heard what sounded like a horse bucking in place, along with some whinnying and more of Hera's laughter. When Celestia started getting tired, I heard a squirt bottle followed by an indignant squawk. Thankfully, that shut everyone up. It's good to hear that Hera's making friends, I said with a smile. So was that the last of the messages? For now. Are you prepared to return to your memories? Yes. We flashed out of her glade and appeared in a very heavily modified version of Celestia's chambers. Everything had been replaced by furniture-shaped bushes and the floor was dirt. Two bodies were on the floor and Cadance was on the bed with her hellspawn. This was when I killed the assassins as a baby, I said. Why are we here? This wasn't formative. Not to you, perhaps, Moonbeam said from behind me. That's a new one. I turned around and she was standing there with reason. But to Cadance, this moment meant everything. So who are you? I asked. I am Love, she replied with a grin. Surprised? To be honest, a little. I was really expecting Cadance. That doesn't hurt my feelings, but it would hurt your precious Moonies. Who could ever know more about love than the woman who has stopped at nothing to get it for the last 6,000 years? I guess that's a fair point, but the counterpoint is the woman who can make people fall in love at will and can magically create it to the point where a changeling can eat it. But you're who my mind chose, so who am I to argue? So do you really have no idea why you're here? Reason ask. I saved Cadance's life. It was the catalyst that got her moved into my house. That led to all kinds of things. And it's why I am here, Love said. This was the first time someone in Equestria felt the stirrings of true love toward you. She told me I was like a brother. You were, eventually, Love said. But this is when she first realized how truly reliable you were. Before, you did your duty as anyone would expect by saving her. Here, you acted with limited time and limited information against powerful, unknown enemies, all in an effort to save her and her foal. You saved her life when she felt that she was in the safest place on the planet. And in doing so, you taught her a very important lesson, Reason said. There is no safer place than at your side. That might be a teensy bit hyperbolic, I said, rolling my eyes. We have a memory for you, Love said. Are you prepared? Sure. Before she could move, I leaned in and kissed her. This time, I ended up in Cadance's room. It was her, the baby, and Skyla. I don't think it's safe here, the baby said. In light of recent events, I'd say it's the opposite of safe, Shiny, Cadance said. I was attacked by 3 assassins in Celestia's own bedroom. But they were all stopped. By some pony who is no longer here. That made Shiny's ears twitch. Honey, I know that you are perfectly capable of keeping me safe. But you cannot protect me every minute of every day. How many guards would you like? I know 3 right off the top of my head who would give their lives to protect you. Cadance shook her head. I don't want ponies to die for me. I would much rather them survive. You know what I meant. Say the word and I'll make it happen. I don't know. There was a full complement of guards at the palace the night I was attacked. I don't know what you want me to do, he replied with a sigh. I can't always be there for you, not while trying to track everyone down. I see a simple solution, Cadance said with a cheeky grin. Just assign Navi to be my guard again. What? I'm sure he'd love to spend more time with his favorite princess. Her horn lit up and a scroll appeared. I've taken the liberty of drafting the notice for him. Have some pony deliver it as soon as possible. He'll need all the time he can get to present himself tomorrow morning. Shiny floated the scroll over and popped it open. After quickly reading it, he shook his head. As amusing as it would be to deliver this, I'm afraid it would be pointless. What do you mean? Cadance asked. It has been made clear to me that I have no authority over him. He would laugh in the face of whoever delivered it. That's inconvenient, but not surprising. Good thing I had a backup plan. Oh boy. So what is this plan? Skyla and I just move in with him instead. It actually took him a few seconds to process that one. Why? Because his house is out of the way in a fort. Besides, he's so antisocial that he probably doesn't get many guests, and I can finally study him in his natural habitat. His natural habitat is among humans. I'm hesitant to entrust the lives of my wife and daughter to his hands. He's too unpredictable. Those unpredictable hands have saved my life more times than any hooves or horns ever have. Nav may be difficult to get along with at times, but he's extremely capable, loyal, and has the most powerful talent anyone ever could, being in the right place at the right time. So if I'm living with him, he'll have the home field advantage when it comes to protecting me. That way, you can rest easy knowing your wife is safe just a single town over and put your mind to finding the villains. We have no right to just barge into his home, Shiny slowly said. Sure we do. We have every right to do it, in fact. Nav is a knight of Equestria. As a princess, I have every right to seize anything of his I want. If we can't talk him into it, I'll just temporarily seize a room in his house. No, you won't. I have a feeling that trying to force him to do anything would require getting Celestia or Luna involved. Besides, we might actually have the legal right to do it, but we have no moral right to do it. We'll talk to Nav. If he doesn't agree, we'll find another solution. That probably would be for the best, to be honest. Very well then. Shall we? What, you mean right now? Yes. Her horn lit up again and a large bag appeared. I already packed. I thought your plan was to just order him to come here. I had a feeling that wouldn't work. This was the backup plan. Let's get going, then. Shiny just sighed. I got booted back into Celestia's room. At this point, the lights were on and Cadance was holding her foal and crying. I'm really surprised she thought trying to force me to do things was a good idea, I said. She should have known how that would end. One of the takeaways here is that shining armor did not allow it, Love said. There are many things you can say about his character, but he always seems to do what he thinks is right. I've had my disagreements and problems with him in the past, but yet, he's a good person. Minus the pseudo-rape, but that's basically the new norm these days anyway. Cadance rushed to defend you at every turn, Reason said. Shiny's arguments were valid, yet she did not hesitate to sing your praises. Those disagreements and problems gave him a well-founded negative opinion of me. He had every right to be suspicious, although I never planned to hurt Cadance. Do you regret that his opinion of you was so negative? Love asked. No. Such a hasty answer. Reason said. Surely not one that was thought out. If you have something to say, don't waste my time with bullshit. Why was Shiny's opinion of you negative? Reason asked. Probably because I was a dishonest cheating scumbag. And you don't regret that? Love asked. That isn't the question you ask. I like Shiny now, but at the time, he was a self-righteous asshole who needed to get knocked down several dozen pegs. I don't regret that his opinion of me was negative. My opinion of him was just as negative, with the addition that I knew how much of a failure he was as a lover. And for the record, regretting being a dishonest cheating scumbag is part of why I decided to do the coma in the first place. That is considerably better thought out, Reason said with a nod. And an understandable position, Love said. So, the first takeaway here is that, despite being a self-righteous asshole at times, Shiny still did the right thing, even when it was inconvenient. The second is that Cadance knew that I was reliable and someone she could trust. On top of that, she defended me to any who doubted it. You know full well how useful a grateful royal can be, Love said. I'm definitely enjoying the ambassador. She knew you would, Love said with a grin. Reason scoffed. Are you prepared to move on? My guide asked. End of part 1.